Good evening and welcome to Daily News Simplified. In today's edition, dated 5th of May 2024, we are going to discuss the following articles with respect to your civil services examination. The first article that we will be dealing with will be with respect to India-UK relations and especially in reference to 2+2 dialogue that has been initiated in the relations. Next, we will be taking up the article with respect to National Commission on Backward Class, its functions, working, and what are the issues and challenges that the organization is facing. Third article that we will be taking will be with respect to the issues and challenges arising out of the functioning of research and analysis wing that has also been given on the Hindu newspaper. Lastly, with the standpoint of prelims, we will be taking two MCQs. The first one being with respect to the onion export and its regime, what are the regulations, what are the associated bodies, and lastly we will be taking an article that is inspired by a picture on the Hindu newspaper first page. So without further ado, let us begin our discussion. So our first article with respect to today's newspaper is India-UK relations. It has been given on page number 7 of today's The Hindu. The headline reads that logistics agreement between India is a real game changer for United States. What is the context? That recently United Kingdom has signed a logistical support agreement with India, and it has been a game changer technology or game changer event for United Kingdom. What are the two reasons that they have given for this? First one being that it enhances the operability of United Kingdom's Navy with respect to Indian Ocean region, and second is with respect to its interoperability and learning curve with respect to Indian Navy as well. So these are the two advantages that they are gaining when operating with Indian Navy. What is the syllabus mapping for this thing? It comes under General Studies paper 2 with specific reference to international relations, and in past there has been a direct question, if not with respect to United Kingdom, but there has been a direct question with respect to India-US relationship. So on similar lines you can also expect, because UPSC is expanding its scope, you can also expect a question with respect to your India-UK relations as well. Now let us see what is the historical background of India-UK relations. If you have been reading modern Indian history as well, you must be aware about the historical background. But let me just brief it up. Before beginning the strategic relationship, let me remind you way back. Let me take you back to 1615 AD. This year was important because in this year the first UK envoy to India came. What was the name of that envoy? The name was Sir Thomas Roe. He went to Mughal court and asked for certain concessions on behalf of the East India Company. So over the period, a simple mere company expanded its scope and converted into British Raj, and they had governed India for nearly 200 years, right? So immediately after independence, we did not share so much enthusiasm in our relationships, but still Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, what he did, he joined the Commonwealth nations. So the relationship was kind of bittersweet relationship between India and UK. But in the immediate backdrop of collapse of Soviet Union, two things happened. India needed to diversify its economic portfolio because our dependency with respect to the rest of the world also increased, and we also needed some investment ventures with respect to our own economy as well. So in this backdrop, we reinvigorated our economy and established relationships with the Western countries. And in that same pursuit, UK was one of the countries in which we reinvigorated our economic relationships. However, when it comes to the strategic ties, the landmark year is 2004, in which India and UK signed the strategic partnership. The strategic partnership grew further, and in 2010 it entered into a phase of enhanced partnership for future. And after close to 22 years after this event, our defense minister Shri Rajnath Singh visited UK in 2023, and we further consolidated our relationship into 2+2 dialogue. There are only a few countries in the world with which India has 2+2 dialogue relationship. One of them is UK, one of them is Japan. Now it is your job to see which are the other countries with which we have a 2+2 dialogue scenario. Now a question might come to your mind that what is the meaning of this 2+2 dialogue? So it is nothing but a dialogue between two countries in which two prominent members of civil services from both the countries participate. Usually it pertains to foreign secretary and defense secretary level talks. So from India, the persons participating would be the foreign secretary of India and defense secretary of India, and from UK also the participating person would be foreign secretary and defense and commonwealth secretary of UK. So this is what is with respect to 2+2 dialogue. It is one of the highest forms of bilateral relationship that India right now pursues. Now let us understand what is the contemporary status of relationship between India and UK in a comprehensive framework. So as you know that trade is the lifeblood of any relationship, any bilateral relationship in 21st century world. So India and UK share a trade of 20 billion US dollars per year. That is a very handsome amount of trade, which means that India is also the third largest source of FDI in India and sixth largest investor in India. Now when it comes to defense, in 2015 India and UK signed a defense and international security partnership. What was the meaning of this partnership? That India and UK will be undertaking comprehensive steps with respect to confidence building measures in defense and security field. Then we have also deployed naval assets, right? Especially with reference to UK. UK has deployed various naval vessels in Indian Ocean region, right? So what does it reflect? It reflects the tilt towards the Indo-Pacific region of United Kingdom. United Kingdom has already been a resident power of Indian Ocean for close to 3 centuries already. So what they are trying to do, especially the Tories in UK, they are trying to re-emphasize on the Indo-Pacific region. Then there was a Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative that we both countries have signed. Now, with respect to climate change, there have been certain developments. The first one being Green Growth Equity Fund has been channelized. What does this fund do? This particular fund uses the corpus for funding the green technologies in both the countries, and especially with reference to India. And then we have also come together, UK and India have come together on two international platforms, that is One Sun, One World and One Grid project and International Solar Alliance. That shows the green commitment of both the countries. With respect to health, we can safely say that Serum Institute of India and AstraZeneca of UK had collaborated with respect to COVID-19 vaccination. When it comes to the multilateral forum, India and UK have two things in common. First one being that UK is still one of the P5 members, and UK endorses India's entry into the P5 club. Next, apart from the P5 club, UK also endorses India's entry into the multilateral export control regime, like what is the name, Wassenaar Club, so on and forth. And lastly, again, diaspora is another factor of relationship between India and UK. India has a strong 1.6 million diaspora in UK, and also one thing that is unique to Indian diaspora in UK is that it is very much economically very vibrant. They are usually mostly white collar employees, and they also have significant political representation in both the parties, be it Labour or Tories. Now let us come to the specific reference of 2+2 dialogue, in the context of which the news was there. Now, what have been the achievements of this 2+2 dialogue framework till now? So in the first meeting, there was an agreement between DRDO and Defense Science and Technological Laboratories, that is the DRDO equivalent of UK, with respect to development of various critical technologies. There has also been a joint working group on electronic propulsion system. Now, what is this electronic propulsion system? This is a critical technology in which the dependency on diesel propulsion reduces. It is very much silent, it is very much efficient, and it increases the efficiency and longevity period at the sea of Indian submarines and ships. Furthermore, it also increases the interoperability between UK's Navy and India's Navy. Then there has been an agreement on open general export licensing regime. What does this do? This expedites the process of export with respect to India. Suppose as of now, before this agreement, the export from UK to India used to take a long protocol and procedure, but after the enactment of this open general export regime, now there is reduced time with respect to export of weapons to India. Then we are also collaborating on the development of gas turbine propulsion technology with respect to our next generation fighter aircraft, that is AMCA. Next, UK has been invited to Information Fusion Center. Now please write in the comment section where is the location of Information Fusion Center in India located. And UK has been invited as a member to Information Fusion Center, and we are sharing. What does this mean? It means that we are sharing all the critical technology and information that we have available with respect to Indian Ocean region. Now, what is the future scope of engagement? The future scope of engagement is that we could partner in Blue Pacific Initiative. What is this Blue Pacific Initiative? This was an initiative that was launched by USA in 2013. As of now, India is not a member or a partner of this Blue Pacific Initiative. The obvious reasons for launching this Blue Pacific Initiative is with respect to the containment of China. So UK has been very vocal with respect to India being made a member of this Blue Pacific Initiative. So that the advantage for India would be that India would be flexing its muscles not just in Indian Ocean region but also to the extent of Blue Pacific Ocean. Then they are also proposing, especially the Tory government of UK as of now is proposing to link Euro-Atlantic and Indian Indo-Atlantic initiatives. So what is the advantage with respect to India? India will get further global recognition, bigger and larger roles when it comes to open seas. However, there are reservations, there are concerns. First one being that this is an election year in most of the world, and then elections are also nearing in UK as well. So the surety of coming to power of Tory government or conservatives in UK is very less. If the Labour comes to power, they will not be sharing the same enthusiasm with respect to these various initiatives. And next, there have been issues with respect to the bureaucratic hurdles that have been there in the procurement and arms licensing regime, which still needs to be ironed out. So these are the issues and concerns and way forward with respect to India-UK relationship, and with the specific reference to the strategic partnership between India and UK. Now let us move on to the next article. The next article is inspired by a cutting in again page number 7 of the Hindu newspaper. The news is with respect to the National Commission for Backward Classes. What does this news read? The news reads that in mission to trigger review of state OBC lists, NCBC hits a wall of absent socio-economic data. Right? What is the context? The context is that there is an ongoing pruning exercise. Pruning exercise means cross verification, inclusion and exclusion exercise of state OBC lists to re-evaluate and continue the continued inclusion of communities that might have progressed. So what is the intended purpose of reservation policy? The intended purpose of reservation policy is that once the reservation is given, the person should progress. And if a person progresses, that particular person or community, if the community has got enough progress as a whole, that particular community needs to be shifted out of the reservation and some other community must be given the benefit of the reservations, right? So even in most of the cases, Supreme Court has also held that reservation can never be an unending exercise. There has to be an end to reservation, right? Now what is the syllabus mapping? In the same spirit, NCBC is also conducting a pruning exercise with respect to various lists of other backward classes. What is the syllabus mapping? Syllabus mapping is with respect to UPSC GS paper 2 constitutional bodies, and as you might be knowing now, National Commission on Backward Class has been given a constitutional status, right? There has been a direct previous year question in 2022. The question was, discuss the role of National Commission on Backward Class in wake of its transformation from a statutory body to a constitutional body. This was asked in 2022. Now let us understand a brief background of National Commission on Backward Classes, its functioning, and later on we will see some issues and challenges and way forward with respect to the functioning of commission. So the history of this commission lies in the famous Mandal Commission case. Prior to making it a constitutional body, in the Indra Sane case, or famously known as Mandal Commission case also, this body was given a statutory status, right? There was an instruction from Supreme Court that you should come up with a statutory body with respect to the welfare of other backward classes in India. So in the same spirit, government constituted a statutory body by the name of National Commission on Backward Class in 1993. However, in 2018, by the 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it was given a constitutional status, and under Article 338B, it was incorporated as a constitutional body. Now, what are the various functions of National Commission on Backward Class? First one is to investigate and monitor the legal safeguards that have been available to the other backward communities of India. Then next is with respect to evaluate the working of various institutions, organizations, state governments, so on and forth with respect to the welfare provisions and welfare measures that are undertaken with respect to the development of other backward classes in India. Then in case of various measures taken, there is always a scope of various issues coming up, various complaints and grievances coming up, right? So it also inquires into the specific complaints with respect to the implementation of welfare schemes and measures when it comes to the other backward classes. Then next one is that it participates and gives advices on socio-economic development of other backward classes. It gives various recommendations with respect to how the condition of other backward classes can be improved in India. And lastly, it prepares a report with respect to the status of other backward classes in India, and it presents the report to the President of India. Further details with respect to the functioning and constitutional provisions has been provided in the detailed PDF which is attached with this video, right? Moving on, let us focus on the operating part of question. Always, generally, you'll have to understand that UPSC will always focus on issues, challenges, and how do we come forward. UPSC would look forward to that you need to write some suggestions, how creative you are with respect to your answers, right? Now let us understand the issues which are there with respect to this particular institution. The first one being that even though it is an organization which provides recommendations with respect to the status of backward communities in India, but its recommendations are not binding in nature, right? So the character of the institution has changed from a statutory body to a constitutional body, but the spirit of the body has not been changed. Still, the recommendations are kept as recommendatory in nature and they are not binding upon the government to implement the recommendations of National Commission on Backward Class. Next is that it lacks the authority in defining the parameters of backwardness with respect to the other backward class. Now, how are these parameters defined? These parameters are usually defined generally by the state governments, by the central government, or by the interpretation of various acts and legislations by the Supreme Court. For example, in Nalsa case, Supreme Court said that even being a transgender can be a ground for backwardness. Similarly, in various cases, for example, there was a case in Uttarakhand in which Supreme Court held that coming from a remote place also can be remote or hilly terrain can also be a ground for backwardness. So they do not have the authority, that is, the NCBC does not have the authority in defining the parameters of backwardness. So that is one of the shortcomings of this particular constitutional body. Then the third argument is with respect to that it lacks the expertise. It lacks expertise of characteristics. So an organization should not just be a bureaucratic exercise or an exercise of rehabilitation of retired politicians. So that is the problem with respect to almost various constitutional and non-constitutional bodies in India, that they become the rehabilitation ground of retired bureaucrats or the retired politicians which have retired or have not been performing in active politics. So the institutions should be made up of very sound researchers, academicians, scientists, so on and forth, and eminent persons or the persons from some kind of background in social service, so on and forth. So these are kind of persons should be motivated to join these institutions which have the genuine spirit to do welfare of the community, but instead they become the rehabilitation ground of various politicians. So because of this particular character, this institution lacks expert characteristics. So you will be amused to know that after 2019 the NCBC has, I was just doing the research today and I saw that after 2019, that means immediately after amendment of 2018, the commission has not even come up with its annual report. So this is the kind of lethargy that these particular organizations are undergoing. Then other argument is with respect to imbalance in representation. Generally, it is to be seen that these organizations which are made for the development of vulnerable sections, but what should happen? Ideally, representation should be drawn from diverse and least advantaged sections of the society. But what happens is that representation is drawn from the particular leaders of the least advantaged communities. That means the dominant persons amongst the subaltern class are drawn as leaders. So this is again one of the question. This gets further compounded by not filling the vacancies. As of 22, if I'm not correct, the commission is functioning only with the chairman. What is the mandate of the commission? The mandate of the commission is that it should have a chairman, it should have a vice chairman, and it should have 3 members. But as of now, there is only one chairman. You please go also refer the website of the commission as well and tell me if I am wrong, that the commission is as of now working only with one chairman. There is no vice chairman, and the provision of 3 members is again not fulfilled. And lastly, the issue is with respect to lack of adequate data to take decisions. Now, this is the context in which a larger debate about the socio-economic caste census is undergoing in country. One party is in favor of conducting a massive socio-economic caste census, and other party is reluctant with respect to going forward in this scenario. So all in all, the present scenario is that there is a lack of data, and that is why the government is not able to take data based decisions. That is one of the issues. Now let us see what are the way forward. How can things be improved, right? What is the way forward? The first recommendation is that the commission be made more inclusive. There needs to be representation of women, there needs to be representation of let us say more backward communities among the backward classes, so on and forth. The composition should also be there with respect to academicians, researchers, social scientists, so on and forth, so that they could contribute in the true spirit for the development of backward classes. With respect to political parties, there is a need to shift from vote bank politics to principled politics. That means votes should not be garnered with respect to the caste of the particular person, right? Voting should be done with respect to the political ideology. Usually this recommendation is there because there is a reason that in India elections are fought on the basis of caste, right? So prior to elections, what the governments do, various governments promises particular caste that once our government comes to power, you will be given backward class status, right? So these are the planks on which elections are fought. So the recommendation is that the elections should not be carried out fought on the basis of caste base, but they should be fought on the principles, the ideas, the economic model, so on and forth. Then there should be a periodic revision mechanism with respect to various lists, right? So that one particular community gets to corner all the benefits of the backward class. Once the community has acquired adequate means, they have developed themselves, they need to be moved out of the backward class, and other communities needs to be given the advantage. But that is where the problem occurs, right? So because of the inherent caste biases in our minds as Indians, right? So it is often said that caste forms the, just like economy forms the basic structure as per Marx. Similarly, Indian sociologists say that caste forms the basic structure of Indian society. You can not take the caste out of the mind of individuals. So even if the person progresses, the person as an individual might be okay with it, but he would never want that his community stops getting the advantages of caste based reservations. So it is very difficult, practically very difficult exercise to conduct. Next recommendation is with respect to making the recommendations to some extent either binding, or it should be, the liability should be placed upon the government, that if they are not accepting the demand or the recommendation of the NCBC, they should provide reason that for what particular reason they are not able to address the demand, right? So either the recommendations should be made binding, or government needs to produce reason that why they are not accepting the demands of the NCBC. At least the constitutional body expects and deserves this much explanation. Then there needs to be a broader consultation while formulating policies of inclusion and exclusion with respect to various state lists. And in Ram Singh case of 2015, Supreme Court had dictated that OBCs should be identified there by their contemporaneous conditions. So contemporaneous conditions means that what is the present condition of that particular community as of now. If the community is living above the standards of backwardness, so those particular communities needs to be removed from the backward caste list, and other communities needs to be given chances of adequate representation. With this, we will move on to the third topic. Our second topic is completed. The third topic, although not very relevant with respect to your UPSC preparation, but many of our students have started to join us from very recently. So in our GS paper 3, there is a point that is various security forces, agencies and their mandate and challenges to internal security. So although there are very feeble chances that a direct question on one particular agency is going to be asked, but again this article or the understanding from this article might be useful for you in addressing the general issues and challenges when it comes to the security agencies of India. Now, what is the context of this news? The context of this news lies in that there have been allegations by USA and Australia and frequently from Pakistan as well, for which we don't bother actually, right? That raw operatives, that is research and analysis wing operatives, are carrying out assassinations and various kind of activities with respect to the Khalistani separatists. So the newspaper asks that will raw overseas operation affect our ties with respect to the Western world, that is UK, USA and Australia. Now in 2016 there was a very unique term that was in news, that is hot pursuit and surgical strikes, right? You must be remembering, there was a very famous movie that was by the name of Uri, which was made on the similar concept of hot pursuit and surgical strikes. So the question was inspired basically from the strikes carried out in Myanmar and Pakistan. So in the similar lines, there can be a question, or otherwise this article will act as a fodder point for your other answers. Now let us understand whatever we know and is available in the public domain with respect to research and analysis wing. Right, not so much is available with respect to the research and analysis wing. So organizational structure is that it is headed by a secretary rank officer and he works in the cabinet secretariat. Usually he reports either directly to the National Security Advisor of India or directly to the Prime Minister of India. Now what is the purpose behind setting up of research and analysis wing? To gather foreign intelligence. Second is to counter various terrorist activities outside the soil of India. Then counter the proliferation. Proliferation is a term that is specifically used with respect to nuclear technology and in general with respect to missile technologies. So they also carry out operations with respect to so that proliferation of nuclear technology does not happen with the non-state actors or rogue states like Pakistan say, right? Next is with respect to advising the policymakers, right? So they also, based on their understanding, based on their field experiences, based on the field reports, they also advise the policymakers so as to what kind of policy should be framed with respect to certain particular country, and they are responsible for securing the strategic interests of India. Now let us understand briefly what is the historical background of creation of research and analysis wing. So till 1968, Intelligence Bureau handled both the internal security as well as external security. For the learners who have just joined us and started watching DNS, let me tell you that security has two dimensions. First one being internal security, that is with respect to the security condition and threats with respect to the internal non-state actors, right? And then other is external security, that is the threat we face with respect to the uh, external agencies and non-state actors that are located outside the country. Now, Intelligence Bureau is the oldest agency with respect to security of India. This agency was formulated by the British in 1860s, right? So it was the obvious choice for handling both internal and external matters of security. But 1962 May, India-China war happened, and in India-China war there was lapse with respect to intelligence, and that is why we suffered a loss with respect to China. And after this war, the external security of India and collection of external intelligence with respect to the security threats to India was transferred to research and analysis wing, and it was founded to focus especially on the twin threat that India faces, one on the east, that is China, and one on the west, that is Pakistan. So this agency has certain various achievements to its shoulders. Some of them have been that it played a pivotal role in the creation of Bangladesh. Then it has played a pivotal role in creating an influence in Afghanistan and Afpak region of Pakistan. Then it has played its role, crucial role in the accession of Sikkim to state of Union of India. Then it has also been responsible for keeping the all the secrets and securing the security of nuclear program of India. Furthermore, you would be proud to know that in Raw has also played its role in African liberation movements in the at the high time of Cold War. But there were certain issues and challenges which even Raw could not deal with. For example, in at the time of Kargil war, there was an absolute intelligence failure on account of Raw, and we had to suffer badly in the mountainous terrain. Similarly, the Raw could not stop or provide adequate intel with respect to the Mumbai terror. Moving on, what are the issues and challenges? The issues and challenges with respect to the security agencies in India is that, as per highlighted by the Kargil Review Committee, there is a lack of coordination among various security agencies in India. The reason being there is overlapping mandate, right? There is an absence of unified command and control structure. So these are the problems with respect to lack of coordination. And since the particular agency failed in the intelligence gathering, and especially with respect to electronic intelligence gathering, this task was transferred to NTRO, right? And a special defense intelligence agency was created because of the lapses that were there on the account of Raw. Now, what are the suggestions and way forward with respect to improvement of functioning? So in general, what we can say is that there can be various recommendations. First one, let us say what we can say, that there is a need of dedicated cadre, right? As of now, this cadre is lopsided. First being that this cadre is drawn from the police and security forces, and there is no dedicated cadre of Raw, right? So Raw needs to have its own dedicated cadre, and there needs to be need of civilian expertise as well. Civilian expertise, for example, scientists, for example, coders, computer scientists, right? So on and forth, data analysts. So because the threats today not just emanate in the foreign soils, they also emanate in the cyberspace. So two recommendations that can be there is that there is a need of dedicated cadre, and the cadre should include also civilians and scientists, data analysts, and so on and forth. Again, the issue that was highlighted by the Kargil Review Committee, I hope that particular issue has been addressed, that the officials, because of the incoming and outgoing nature of the officials, right, because Raw does not have their own dedicated cadre, long-term dedicated cadre. So Indian intelligence officials have a problem with respect to the languages, foreign languages. So there is a need for that particular cadre, so that the officials become expert in foreign languages. For example, languages like Chinese, Mandarin, right, Pashto, Iranian, so on and forth, right? So these are the recommendations when it comes to the institution of research and analysis wing. Well, we will take a brief break, and after that we will be solving two MCQs for your prelims examination. So the first MCQ that we will be taking today is with respect to the onion pricing mechanism in India. What is the context of this news? On page number 1 of the Hindu, today there has been a news that center lifts the export ban on onions. Now, what was the reason to put a ban on onions? The reason was that 6 months ago there was huge inflation, and mostly the inflation was led by various agriculture commodities, right? So what did the center do? Center put a ban on the export of onions. This is one of the mechanisms through which center regulates the prices of various products, especially the agricultural products in India. Now, because of the pending elections in the state of Maharashtra and Gujarat, which both of which are one of the top producers of onions in India, and also the availability of general rise in the availability of onions because of exports from Pakistan and Egypt, center has decided to go in the favor of lifting the ban on exports of onions. Now we will understand the key concepts and key terms which have been reflected in the news, right? So one of the key terms that has been reflected in the news is with respect to minimum export price. You must have heard the term maximum retail price, but you must not have heard the term minimum export price. So what is this particular key term, that is minimum export price? So minimum export price is a price below which an exporter cannot export his or her product, right? So it is kind of a quantitative restrictive mechanism. Why? Because exporter would always try to export and gain maximum margins for their profit. But if the government sets the export price that you have to export only on this particular price, that is, for example, the price was 550 per ton, and 40% of the duty was levied on that particular price. That means this particular pricing mechanism made the onions costlier, and once the onions are made costlier, nobody in the international market would be willing to purchase, right? And thus the government controls the inflow and outflow of agricultural products in India. So what does it do? It acts as a quantitative restriction on trade, right? Because of because the government increases the prices, and subsequently what happens? It becomes dearer to the importer, and then importer would be discouraged to purchase onions from India. That is how it functions. What are the authorities responsible for setting up and regulation of this onion export prices? So the notification is done by the Department of Commerce, that is under the Ministry of Commerce, and the price fixation for specifically for onion is done by NAFED, and NAFED is an organization under Ministry of Agriculture. This particular action has got its legal backing by Section 5 of Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act of 1962. This particular act has been framed with respect to regulation of foreign trade and various commodities with the international market. With the understanding of these key terms and the statutes involved, let us move on and try to solve a PYQ and a practice question. In 2020, there was a question which read that in the case of all cereals, pulses and oilseeds, the procurement at minimum support price is unlimited in any state or UT in India. And in the case of cereals and pulses, the MSP is fixed in any UT and state at the level of which the market price will never rise. Right? So answer was D, neither 1 and nor 2. Both the statements were incorrect. On similar lines, we have framed a question. Consider the following statements regarding the minimum export price. Right? The first statement is that it is the price above which an exporter is not allowed to export the commodity from India. Now you tell me, is this statement correct? Did we read the same thing? Is it the price above which or below which? Right? So statement 1 is incorrect. Notification on MEP is issued by Department of Commerce. Yes, this appears to be a correct information, that notification is done by the Department of Commerce. So generally in this one, the department and ministry has been given correct, but conceptual understanding with respect to this statement 1 has been convoluted, right? So the answer is B, that is 2 only. Now the next prelims specific question has been inspired from a photo clipping that is available on page number 1 of the Hindu. The photograph reads that one of the largest freshwater lakes in country, the Kolleru Lake in Iluru district of Vijayawada, lies dry and barren in the middle of particularly intense summer. So the context is that because of summer and because of excessive water extraction, this particular lake, that is Kolleru Lake, has been dried up. So we will understand the geographical features. What is Kolleru Lake? Where is it located? So on and forth, right? So it is the largest freshwater lake in Andhra Pradesh. Now you please go research and tell me, is it the largest or is it also the largest freshwater lake in India? Or if it is not the largest freshwater lake, which one is the largest freshwater lake in India, and what is the standing of Kolleru Lake in that context? What is the ranking of Kolleru Lake? So it is located between Krishna River and Godavari Delta, and it covers an area of 308 square kilometers. Next, the lake is directly fed with some small rivulets. The name is Budameru River and Tammileru River. So these are the two rivulets or small streams of the river by which the lake is fed. So obviously this lake is not directly, if you see, it is not directly connected to either Godavari River or Krishna River, we will also see the map very keenly, because the question that I have framed is with respect to the location and geography of the lake itself, right? So it is directly fed by these two rivers by the name of Budameru and Tamileru. However, in the time of rains, and if there is an excessive discharge in the rivers, it acts as a buffer stock. That is, this particular lake is fed by the buffer water, excessive water of both the rivers, and consequently it swells in the rainy season, but it shrinks very much in the summer season. So because of its unique characteristics and the birds that have been found in this particular lake, in and around this particular lake, it was notified as a wildlife sanctuary in 1999. And because of its status, because it is shrinking, and then again there has been various humanitarian intervention, because there have been excessive extraction from this lake. There have been a lot of tube wells in and around this lake for extraction of groundwater, because of which this particular lake is drying up. So it was in 2002 accorded the Ramsar wetland of international importance status, right? It was in 2002 that this particular status was accorded. Now you keenly see in these two maps the location of Godavari river, the location of Krishna river, and the location of the particular lake, right? So this is the lake. What is the location of the lake in India? Here it is Kolleru Lake that is located. Now, based on our understanding, let us solve in 2022. Also, it is my humble request for those of you who are appearing in this year's preliminary, pay special emphasis on various lakes, because lakes have been a part of UPSC's discussion and questions, especially with respect to preliminary examination. A question directly on Kolleru Lake as an option has already been asked. Also, as a part of my research, I also found that various other questions on lakes have been asked. So in 2022, there was a direct question that which of the following lakes in West Africa has become dry and turned into a desert? Okay. So the right answer was Lake Fagubine. And this is the image that has been released by NASA, that over the period, this lake has dried up and shrinked and turned into a desert. So unfortunately, this particular lake is also drying up, and if adequate conservation measures are not undertaken, one day this particular lake will also convert into a dry land. Based on the issue, let us try to solve the MCQ. With reference to Kolleru Lake in India, consider the following statements. It lies on the confluence of Krishna and Godavari river. So if you have read the map correctly, does it lie on the confluence of these two rivers? No. In fact, these two rivers, they don't even meet. They don't meet. Confluence means meeting of two streams or rivers. For example, the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna happens at Allahabad. So these two rivers independently flow into the sea. Although the delta is named Krishna and Godavari delta, but in actual these rivers don't meet. So the statement number 1 is incorrect. Next is, it is a Ramsar wetland site. Yes, this is a Ramsar wetland site, accorded the status of Ramsar wetland in 2002. Next, it is located at the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Is it located at the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu? If you would have read the map correctly, no, it is not located at the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. It is way up in the coastal Andhra Pradesh, right? And in fact, it is the Pulicat Lake, which is located at the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Only close to 95 to 97% of Pulicat Lake comes in the Andhra Pradesh region, and only 3 to 5% of the Pulicat Lake comes into the Tamil Nadu region. So I have just mixed up that instead of Kolleru Lake, I have given information on Pulicat Lake. So it is located well within Andhra Pradesh. That means statement number 3 is also incorrect. It is not located at the border of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. How many of the statements given above are correct? So answer is only 1. That is, second statement is correct. With this, we conclude the session for today. I hope you liked the session. If you like the session, please hit the like button, right? And also tell your juniors, your other students, your friends to subscribe to our channel and start watching DNS. That is all for DNS, today's DNS from my end. Hope to meet you soon. Thank you.